My younger brother, Jake, asked my fiancée, Lisa, to marry him right in front of me. Jake's my 26-year-old brother, and I'm a 28-year-old man. A year ago, Jake used to date Lisa. They went out back in August 2022, but only lasted a month. He dumped her because he got bored of being in a relationship. He never wanted to settle down anyway. While they were dating, I was living in another state, so I had no clue about Jake's girlfriend or who Lisa was until I met her. Lisa and I met at a bar when I moved back home in October. We hit it off right away. She was the most stunning and smart woman I'd ever met. We met up a few more times and decided to make it official. By December, I thought it was time for my family to meet her. So I told them about Lisa and suggested they meet her at Christmas. My family knew I was dating someone, but I'm pretty private about my personal life. I kept details about Lisa to myself until I was sure about her. When my parents asked to see pictures, they passed my phone around the dinner table. Jake saw it and blew up, calling me a terrible brother for dating his ex-girlfriend, and demanded I break it off with her. I refused. When I asked Lisa about it, she admitted they dated and explained their breakup. It took a few weeks, but eventually Jake stopped bringing up me dating his ex, and I thought he was over it. On Lisa's birthday this year, I took her out to a fancy dinner with both our families and her close friends. I asked her to marry me. Jake flipped out again, causing a scene, which I and my sisters immediately shut down. The whole blow-up happened last weekend. Jake had been pretty quiet about everything for the past 2 months. I didn't see him much and figured he was keeping his distance, which was fine by me. Then out of the blue, he invited Lisa and me over for a family dinner at his apartment. He said our parents and sisters were going too. It seemed odd, but since everyone else was going, we decided to go along. The dinner itself was decent, nothing special. After we ate, we moved to the living room to chat. About half an hour into a normal conversation, Jake stood up and announced he had something important to say. He went on with this long speech about being happy to have family around for his big moment. Then he got down on one knee, pulled out a cheap ring, and asked Lisa to marry him. Lisa looked confused and obviously uncomfortable. She demanded he put the ring away and stand up. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. My dad tried to grab Jake, but I got there first and punched him. I won't repeat most of what he said because I was too furious to remember all of it, but he mentioned something about proving that Lisa wasn't really into me and just wanted to get back at him. Before things got worse, my parents rushed me out, promising they'd talk to Jake. It's been a few days since then, and I'm still fuming. I'm scared Lisa might rethink marrying me because of this. Any advice? First off, thanks to everyone who read my story and gave advice. I've been reading all the comments and responses since last night and this morning, and a lot of good points were made. There hasn't been much of an update since the dinner incident, as I've only talked to Lisa and my little sister Becky. I want to clear up a few things. 1, Lisa and I just got engaged. We both felt it was the right time, even if it seemed fast to others. I'm sure about her, despite everything. 2, when we met, I was the one who approached her. Whether she had any clue about us being related, I don't know. I asked her about it after finding out they dated, and she claimed she had no idea. I had no reason to doubt her, but Jake's overreaction did raise some red flags. 3, I had no clue she and Jake dated when I met her. Jake and I aren't close at all. We used to be, but as we grew up, we drifted apart and barely talked. Before I moved back, we only spoke on special occasions like birthdays. Lisa knew I had a family, but not much about them until I decided to introduce them. When she and Jake met again, there were no signs of lingering feelings. She didn't act like she knew him well, but she also wasn't overly friendly. 4, I was told their relationship only lasted a month. I didn't think I needed Jake's permission to propose to her, but maybe that was a mistake. Anyway, I plan to talk to Jake this weekend to lay everything out on the table and figure out what's going on. I never asked for his side of the story, which was my fault. If anything major comes up, I'll update again. For now, that's all I've got. I decided to call Jake and ask him to come over so we could talk. I told him IVDJ TMD prefer if Lisa was there too, but I was fine if he didn't VGTMT want her around. Surprisingly, he agreed. He showed up at my place around noon. It was awkward at first, but I started the conversation by apologizing for not giving him a heads up about proposing to Lisa. I also apologized for hitting him. He said it was no big deal, but appreciated the apology. I told him what Lisa had said about their relationship and asked him to confirm if it was true. I wanted to understand his extreme reaction and make sure I wasn't VJ/TM'd downplaying their relationship. Jake confirmed they only dated for a few weeks and that he broke up with her because he lost interest. Lisa, who was being her usual sharp-tongued self, asked if he was acting out because he still had feelings for her. Jake admitted he thought she looked better than when they dated, but he didn't have any regrets or lingering feelings. He said he just didn't like seeing a girl he dated even briefly with his older brother. I reminded him that I had no idea they dated, so it wasn't VJMT, like I intentionally went after his ex. He shrugged and said it didn't matter, that I should be broken up with her anyway. He was adamant that he would have done the same if the roles were reversed, which I doubted. I asked why he proposed to her if he didn't have any lingering feelings. Turns out, one of his buddies, who was around when Jake and Lisa dated, put the idea in his head that maybe Lisa knew we were brothers and was using me to get back at him. Considering she was supposedly hung up on him after they ended, he and his friend thought it VDJ/Tim to be a good idea to test it. So he decided to propose to her and see if Chev JTMD dumped me for him. Lisa demanded to know why he thought she was hung up on him. He claimed he heard she was asking about him after the breakup and still hung out at places they used to go. Lisa, being her usual self, told him she asked about him once and hung out at those places with her friends long before they dated. She also told him she was offended by the idea that Chev JTMD goes so low as to use me to get back at him. Jake gave her a half-hearted apology, but said she had to see it from his point of view. He asked her if she truly didn't know, and she replied that she didn't see the resemblance until we were in the same room and acted nothing alike, so it never crossed her mind. That pretty much wrapped up the conversation. Before Jake left, he told me he couldn't support our relationship knowing he used to date her, so he wouldn't be attending the wedding. I told him he didn't have to worry about that since he was probably going to be uninvited anyway. After he left, I felt a bit better, but I knew things were far from resolved. My parents weren't happy about Jake being uninvited, but they understood it was a mutual decision. My sisters, Becky and Mary, said they knew he didn't have a good reason for being an ass, and supported my decision to keep him out of the wedding. Now, Lisa, on the other hand, started acting even more high and mighty. She was furious about the whole situation and made sure everyone knew it. She kept telling me I needed to stand up to my family more and not let them walk all over me. It was like she enjoyed the drama and wanted to fan the flames instead of calming things down. She even suggested we should move away entirely, closer to her brother, just to get away from my toxic family. We started looking into downsizing the venue since the guest list was getting smaller. My mom, still upset about Jake not being invited, decided to stop by unannounced to clear the air. She said she wanted to talk about everything, so we invited her in for dinner. Lisa made her a plate of food, and I asked Mom if she still planned on not coming to the wedding. Mom said she wanted to come but couldn't get over me not inviting Jake because of a simple mistake. I reminded her that his simple mistake was proposing to my fiancee right in front of me, and she dismissed it as just a joke. Lisa, with her usual sharp tongue, asked why Mom wanted to talk if she wasn't going to change her stance on Jake. Mom said she hoped Lisa would talk me into inviting Jake again. Apparently she thought I'd be at work and she'd catch Lisa alone. Lisa, obviously irritated, told her she wouldn't have that conversation without me present. Mom snapped, calling Lisa spineless and unable to think for herself, which sparked a heated argument. Lisa told her to get out, and as she got up, Mom followed, screaming about Lisa tearing our family apart. When Lisa tried to unlock the front door, Mom grabbed her hair and pulled her to the ground, screaming and trying to claw her face. I pulled Mom off and threw her outside. Mom banged on the door for a while, but I made sure Lisa was okay before she left. She kept calling and texting us both repeatedly. When I was sure Lisa was all right, I texted Mom and told her not to bother reaching out again because we were done. I called Dad and my sisters to let them know what happened. Dad tried to make excuses for her, saying she was stressed, but my sisters said they knew she'd snap eventually. Lisa didn't want to press charges, saying she just wanted to cut Mom out for good. I told her that was obvious, but she should still talk to the police since she was assaulted. Lisa refused, not wanting Mom to get arrested. My sisters and Lisa's mom came by to comfort her, and thankfully she's doing okay now. Mom is blocked on everything until Lisa says otherwise. I genuinely don't know what to do now. Lisa doesn't want to go to the police, but my sisters and I think she should, at least to have documentation in case something happens in the future. For now, we're just trying to move forward. After the whole ordeal with my mom, Lisa insisted we go completely no contact with my family, aside from my sisters. She was adamant about not having any more drama and said my family was nothing but a bunch of toxic people who didn't deserve to be in our lives. I couldn't really argue with her on that, especially after what Mom did. We talked about our next steps, and Lisa was relentless in pushing for a move closer to her brother. She said she didn't want to raise our future kids anywhere near my crazy family. She kept nagging about it every chance she got, making it clear she thought my family was beneath her. I called Dad and told him about our decision to go no contact. He didn't take it well and asked if Mom could join the conversation. I agreed, even though I knew it wouldn't end well. I told them both that Lisa and I were cutting them out of our lives. Dad demanded to know why, saying we've gone through all this trouble to repair our relationship. I told him that nothing was actually repaired, and they still treated Jake like he was the center of the universe. I explained that their favoritism had brought our relationship to a breaking point. I also told Mom I was tired of being her scapegoat for all her bad parenting and JKFDTM's behavior. I told her IVGJTMD never forgive her for what she did to Lisa and what she put me and my sisters through growing up. Mom started crying and saying how I should move on like my sisters had, but I cut her off. I told her to be grateful for their forgiveness because Chev DJTMD'd never get it from me, especially after her recent actions. Lisa jumped in, calling Mom all sorts of colorful names and telling her how disgusting she was for saying she regretted having me. Mom just sat there stunned, while Dad tried to defend her, saying she was struggling because her kids were at odds. He said I was being unfair to punish her for her struggles. I told him the only person she cared for was Jake and herself, and nothing he could say would change my mind. I said it was up to him whether to keep my number, but IVJTMD be blocking them both everywhere, and wouldn't VJTMT reach out again. Then I hung up. Afterward, I sent an email to the whole family, uninviting everyone except my aunt, uncle, and sisters from the wedding. Writing that email was hard, but Lisa held me while I cried. She assured me TM and be okay. My sisters reached out to me after reading the email. I apologized to Charlotte for not being able to continue reconciling like she wanted, but she said it was okay and not my fault. The family VJTM's response was mixed. Some were mad I aired out family issues online, while others were angry at my parents because they never knew how bad it was. I talked to Jake one last time. He asked if I was cutting him off too. I told him I wasn't VDJTM it, but wouldn't VJTMT go out of my way to reach out to him either. He didn't VJTMT to argue and just wished me the best with the wedding. Lisa and I are now looking for a new place to stay, closer to her brother. I spoke to my boss about transferring, and Lisa is exploring remote work options or finding a new job. WebGTM are also changing our wedding venue since the guest list is smaller. My uncle offered his lake house for the wedding, which sounds perfect. I don't BJJTMT plan to post more about this unless something major happens. I want to move on with life. Thanks again for all the advice and support. Happy holidays. A few days after we sent out the email, my phone started blowing up. Some family members were outraged that IVDGJTMD uninvited them, while others were shocked to learn the full extent of what was happening. Most of Mom VDJTMM's side of the family rallied around her, saying I was overreacting and should forgive and forget. Lisa, being her usual bossy self, told me to ignore them and stick to our plan. I spoke with my sisters again, and they were supportive as always. Becky even offered to help with the wedding planning, knowing our guest list had shrunk significantly. She and Mary both reassured me that cutting off our toxic family was the right move. Lisa, however, seemed to enjoy rubbing it in that we were better off without them. One evening, Lisa and I were sitting on the couch when she started going off about how useless my family was. She said they were all a bunch of losers who didn't deserve to be in our lives. I told her she didn't need to keep bashing them, but she just rolled her eyes and kept on ranting. It was like she thrived on the drama, and I started to wonder if she enjoyed it a bit too much. Meanwhile, we were making progress with our move. I got approval from my boss to transfer to an office closer to Lisa of DJTM's brother, and Lisa was finalizing her remote work arrangements. We found a nice house in a quiet neighborhood, and were excited about starting fresh away from the chaos. The wedding plans were coming along too. My uncle VGGGTM's lake house was perfect, and Becky was helping us sort out the details. Lisa, of course, had to have everything her way and was being quite the bridezilla about it. She demanded the most expensive decorations and threw a fit whenever something wasn't did exactly how she wanted. It was exhausting, but I kept telling myself it was just the stress of the wedding. One night, as we were finalizing the guest list, Lisa of DJTM's phone rang. She answered it and quickly walked out of the room, talking in a hushed voice. I couldn't hear what she was saying, but something felt off. When she came back, she brushed it off as a call from her brother, but I had my doubts. Over the next few days, Lisa of DJTM's behavior became more erratic. She was constantly on her phone, texting and taking calls in private. When I asked her about it, she snapped at me, saying I was being paranoid and needed to trust her. But my gut told me something was NVJTMT right. I decided to keep an eye on her and see if I could figure out what was going on. One evening, when she left her phone unattended, I saw a message pop up from a guy named Tom. My heart sank as I read the flirtatious messages between them. It was clear she was having an affair. I confronted Lisa about it, and she didn't even try to deny it. Instead, she turned the tables on me, saying it was my fault for dragging her into my family drama and not being supportive enough. She said she deserved better and stormed out, leaving me devastated. Now IVJTMDM me left picking up the pieces of my life. The wedding is off, and IVJTM not sure what the future holds. IVDJTMV cut ties with my family and lost the woman I thought IVDJTM had to spend my life with. It feels like everything is falling apart, but I know I have to keep moving forward. Thanks again to everyone who offered advice and support. IVDJTM's been a tough journey, but IVJJTFM am grateful for the people who've JTMVV stood by me through it all. I don't know what VDJTM's next, but IVJ determined to find a way to rebuild and move on from this mess. After Lisa stormed out, I was left sitting in our living room, feeling like the world had crumbled around me. I stared at the empty space where Chev JTMD'd been standing, my mind racing with anger, betrayal, and sadness. It was hard to believe that just a few days ago we were planning our future together. I decided I couldn't sit there and wallow in my misery. I needed to take action to reclaim my life from the chaos it had become. First, I canceled all the wedding plans. I called Becky and told her what had happened. She was shocked and offered to come over to help me sort things out. Becky and Mary were my rocks during this time. They came over that evening, bringing food and plenty of support. Becky suggested I take some time off work to clear my head. I agreed and called my boss the next day. Thankfully, my boss was understanding and gave me a few weeks off. I used that time to find a new place. I decided to move closer to my sisters instead of Lisa of JRTMM's brother. It felt right to be near family, the ones who had supported me through all the drama. As I packed up my things, I found little reminders of Lisa everywhere. Each one felt like a stab to the heart, but I pushed through. I had to keep moving forward. Becky and Mary helped me with the move, and soon enough I was settled into a small, cozy apartment near them. Life started to get a little better once I was away from the toxic environment. I focused on my work and spent a lot of time with my sisters. They kept me busy and distracted, which was exactly what I needed. Becky even introduced me to some of her friends, hoping I might start dating again. I was in VJTMT ready for that, but it was nice to know I had people looking out for me. One afternoon, while I was unpacking some boxes, I found an old photo album. Flipping through it, I saw pictures of happier times with my family. It made me realize that despite everything, there were still good memories. I decided to reach out to my dad. I was in VDJTMT ready to forgive my mom, but I missed my dad and wanted to see if we could rebuild our relationship. Dad and I met for coffee. It was awkward at first, but we soon fell into easy conversation. He apologized for everything, saying he never realized how bad things had gotten. He admitted he had been blinded by his love for Jake, and didn't attempt to see how it was hurting me. We talked for hours, and by the end of it, I felt like we were on the path to healing. As for Lisa, I heard through the grapevine that she moved in with Tom. It stung, but I knew I was better off without her. She had shown her true colors, and I was grateful to be free of her manipulative ways. I started focusing on myself, picking up old hobbies and trying new things. I joined a local gym and started working out regularly. It helped clear my mind and gave me a sense of accomplishment. I also started volunteering at a community center, which made me feel good about giving back. One day, while at the gym, I met a woman named Rachel. She was friendly and down-to-earth, a refreshing change from Lisa VJTM's high-maintenance attitude. We started chatting, and eventually I asked her out for coffee. We hit it off, and it wasn't VJTMT yet long before we were spending more time together. Rachel knew about my past, and she was patient and understanding. She never pressured me and always made me feel valued. Being with her was easy, and for the first time in a long while, I felt genuinely happy. Looking back, I realized that Lisa VJTM's betrayal was a blessing in disguise. It forced me to reevaluate my life and make necessary changes. I cut out toxic relationships and focused on the people who truly cared about me. I found a new sense of purpose and met someone who appreciated me for who I was. Life isn't VJTNMT perfect, but ATVJTLRTM's a lot better than it was. IVDJTMV learned to take things one day at a time and appreciate the small joys. With Rachel by my side and the support of my family, I know I can handle whatever comes my way. HREVDJTMMS to new beginnings and leaving the past where it belongs. A few months passed, and life started to feel normal again. Rachel and I were growing closer, and my relationship with my dad was slowly mending. I was getting back into the groove at work and even got a promotion. It felt like things were finally looking up. One weekend, Rachel and I decided to take a trip to a nearby lake. It was the perfect getaway to relax and enjoy each other's company. We rented a small cabin and spent our days hiking, fishing, and just talking. Rachel was the complete opposite of Lisa, supportive, kind, and genuinely interested in my well-being. One evening, as we sat by the campfire, Rachel asked me more about my family and what had happened with Lisa. I shared everything, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. She listened intently, never interrupting, just letting me get it all out. When I was done, she simply hugged me and said, "You deserve so much better." Back in town, my mom continued to try reaching out. She left voicemails and sent messages through other family members, but I stayed firm in my decision. Becky and Mary supported me, even when some relatives thought I was being too harsh. They knew the full story and understood why I couldn't just let it go. One day, out of the blue, Lisa showed up at my new place. I was shocked to see her standing there looking all dolled up like she always did. She tried to sweet-talk me, saying she missed me and wanted to talk, but I wasn't having any of it. I told her flat out that I knew about her affair with Tom and that there was no chance in hell IVJTMD ever take her back. Lisa of DATM's face twisted into a scowl. You think you're so much better now, Don Vijay tempt you? You were always a loser and you'll always be one. Enjoy your pathetic life, she spat before storming off. I stood there, stunned by her words, but also relieved. It was the closure I needed. Rachel was my rock through all of this. She encouraged me to focus on the future and not let the past dictate my happiness. With her support, I started to see a therapist to work through my issues. It was NVDJTM at easy, but it was necessary. I learned a lot about myself and why I had let people like Lisa and my mom control me for so long. Therapy helped me build healthier boundaries and understand the importance of self-worth. I became more assertive at work and in my personal life. Rachel noticed the change and told me she was proud of how far IVDJTM'd come. One evening, I decided to visit my dad. It had been a while since we had a proper talk, and I wanted to see how he was doing. We sat on the porch, drinking beer and reminiscing about the good old days. He apologized again for everything, and I could see the regret in his eyes. I told him I appreciated his apology and that I was willing to move forward, but only if things changed for the better. He agreed, saying he wanted to rebuild our relationship and be a better father. It was a start, and that was enough for me. Over the next few months, we made an effort to spend more time together. It was MVGJTMT perfect, but it was progress. Rachel and I continued to grow stronger. We talked about our future and what we wanted out of life. She was supportive of my decision to stay low contact with most of my family and encouraged me to keep focusing on my mental health and happiness. One day, while we were having lunch, Rachel looked at me and said, "You know, IVDJTM, you've never been this happy with anyone before." Her words touched me deeply, and I realized that despite all the crap IVDJTMD been through, I had finally found someone who truly cared about me. We started planning a future together, taking it one step at a time. I knew I had found a partner who would stand by me through thick and thin, and for the first time in a long time, I felt hopeful about what lay ahead. Life has a funny way of throwing curveballs at you, but with the right people by your side, you can get through anything. I learned that the hard way, but it made me stronger and more appreciative of the good things in life. Here's to new beginnings and a brighter future. IVDJJJMTM ready for whatever comes next, knowing IVDJTMV've got the support of my loved ones and the strength to face any challenges that come my way. As time went on, things began to settle into a comfortable routine. Rachel and I were happier than ever, and my relationship with my dad continued to improve. I had even started reconnecting with a few other family members who had been supportive during the whole ordeal. Life was starting to feel normal again, and I was finally at peace. One evening, Rachel and I were having dinner at our favorite restaurant. We were talking about our future plans when she suddenly reached across the table and took my hand. "IVDJJTM, we've been thinking a lot about us," she said, her eyes filled with warmth. "I love you, and I want to spend the rest of my life with you." I was stunned, but overjoyed. Here was this amazing woman who had stood by me through all the chaos, and she wanted to build a future with me. I squeezed her hand and smiled. "I love you too, Rachel, more than anything." A few weeks later, I decided it was time to propose. I wanted to do it right, so I planned a special evening. I took Rachel to the lake where we had our first getaway. We spent the day hiking and reminiscing about our time together. As the sun set, we sat by the water, and I pulled out a ring. "Rachel," I began, my heart pounding in my chest, you brought so much joy and stability into my life. I can't but imagine a future without you. Will you marry me?" Tears filled her eyes as she nodded. "Yes, yes, 1,000 times yes," she exclaimed, and I slipped the ring onto her finger. We hugged, and it felt like all the pain from the past had finally been washed away. As we planned our wedding, I couldn't VGTMTT help but reflect on how far IVJLATMD come. From the mess with Lisa to rebuilding my life and finding true happiness with Rachel, it had been a wild journey. My sisters were thrilled for me and offered to help with the wedding planning. Even my dad, who had been making a genuine effort to change, was supportive and excited for us. The day of the wedding was perfect. We held it at my uncle VJTM's lake house, just as we VDJTMB planned. Surrounded by close friends and family, Rachel and I exchanged our vows. It was a simple ceremony, but it was filled with love and joy. During the reception, I took a moment to look around at everyone who had supported us. Becky and Mary were laughing and dancing, my dad was chatting with my uncle, and Rachel was radiant, talking with her friends. For the first time in a long while, I felt truly content. As the night wore on, Rachel and I snuck away for a quiet moment by the lake. We sat on the dock, our feet dangling over the water. "I've DJ TM, I'm so glad I found you," she said softly, leaning her head on my shoulder. "I've DJ TM, I'm glad I found you too," I replied, wrapping my arm around her. "You've JTMVE made me realize what real love is." We sat there in silence, watching the stars reflected on the lake VJTM's surface. It was a perfect ending to a perfect day. I knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, we VDJTMD faced them together. In the months that followed, we settled into married life. It wasn't VJJTMT always easy, but it was always worth it. We continued to support each other, growing stronger with each passing day. I stayed in therapy, working through my issues and becoming a better partner for Rachel. Looking back, I realized that everything I went through had led me to this point. The pain, the betrayal, the difficult decisions, they had all been part of my journey to finding true happiness. And for that, I was grateful. Life has a funny way of testing you, but it also has a way of rewarding you when you least expect it. I found love, peace, and a sense of purpose. I found a partner who truly cared for me and a family who supported me through thick and thin. JTMs to the future and whatever it may bring. With Rachel by my side and the lessons IVDJTMV learned, I know I can face anything. This is just the beginning of our story, and I can VJTMT wait to see where it takes us.